One of my biggest pet peeves is that whenever we talk about cultural differences when it comes to geography, people always rely on a single explanation. And that is Western cultures are more individualistic and non-Western cultures are more collectivistic. But what if I told you that that single explanation is more deeper than you actually think?
Cheek, the nerve, the gall, the audacity and the gumption.
Hi, my name is Mamobo Ogoro, social psychologist and founder of Gorm. And if you want to learn how to unify across differences, you gotta make sure that you are subscribing to our channel. To tell you what's going on when it comes to cultural differences and what's wrong about it in today's understanding, we need to go back to the beginning of everything. Okay, not the beginning as in how the world began, but the beginning in terms of how it came about in social psychology. So between 1967 and 1973, German social psychologist Gerd Hofstede collected data over 117,000 people in 40 countries and 3 different continents. He used an extensive survey to determine whether those from different countries acted differently. For example, someone from country A acted differently to someone from country B, and so on. Based on this large-scale analysis, he found that people's behavior differ based on universal outcomes based in their cultural context. And there are 4 outcomes that he found. 1, power distance, the degree to which people accept an unequal distribution of power and authority amongst different members in their group. 2, uncertainty avoidance, the degree to which a culture tolerates and seeks to minimize ambiguity, uncertainty, and risks through rules and structures that they build. 3, masculinity and femininity, the degree to which a society values assertiveness, competitiveness, and achievement over quality of life, caring, nurturing, and so on. And finally, 4, individualism and collectivism. Power distance, uncertainty avoidance, and masculinity and femininity kind of merits their own videos. But today we're going to be talking about individualism and collectivism because it is the most well-researched area in social psychology today. So, what is individualism and collectivism? Individualistic cultures prioritize autonomy, self-expression, and personal goals, focusing on their achievements and valuing independence over anything else, where personal success is top tier. According to Hofstede, individualism is more prominent in Western cultures such as the USA, UK, and of course, Ireland, where we're based. FYI, Ireland scored 70 out of 100 in individualism. The opposite of individualism is collectivism, which emphasizes the importance of group cohesion, shared values and goals, and harmonious relationships between members of a certain group. These prioritize the needs and interests of the group, such as family, community, and organizations over your personal desires. Collectivistic cultures include Japan, Argentina, and Nigeria. And that's why, for example, when you turn 18 in a country, let's say in Germany, your parents may kick you outside the house or be expecting you to go soon. But in another country, such as Argentina or Nigeria, you could be staying that house well until your 30s, until you get married, let's say. But all jokes aside, these are huge generalizations, and Hofstede's research does not actually focus on a deeper level into these cultural differences that we actually have. Hofstede conducted his research in the company IBM and only on IBM employees. And the generalized insights of these business executives or team members were put to everyone in the entire globe. It was the company IBM because he worked in IBM at the time. So that's kind of like, a conflict of interest, I don't know. And like many other proficient psychologists at the time in the 20th century, they had great ideas, but kind of questionable execution. So Hofstede is definitely onto something. Yet he kind of missed many of the details when it came to understanding cultural differences. Individualism and collectivism can help us when we're talking about large groups, but the nuances that lie between them is much more different. So you're not automatically individualistic just because you were born in Ireland, or let's say collectivistic just because you were born in Nigeria. According to research that came after Hofstede, those who live in an individualistic culture but may come from a minoritized or minority group, let's say, for example, African Americans, they tend to have more of a collectivist way of seeing the world as opposed to the majority group, their white counterpart, let's say. Those from a rural area tend to be more collectivist than those who live in a metropolitan or more city-based culture. Similarly, if you have a lower socioeconomic background, you are more likely to be collectivist because your social role in your community is vital for your survival. However, people in higher socioeconomic backgrounds tend to be more individualistic because they can afford to not rely on anyone but themselves. Same goes for religion, where Protestants present more individualistic attributes than Catholics, according to the research. Some authors have even suggested that collectivism is slowly disappearing since we're entering a globalized era and consuming content from highly liberal and individualistic societies. So individualism and collectivism can explain differences across human behavior worldwide, but they don't necessarily explain the nuances and intersectionality that comes about. For example, a wealthy Nigerian millionaire can be more individualistic than an Irish person that comes from a lower socioeconomic background. It also creates an unnecessary divide between the West and non-Western countries. And people are more complex than that. In reality, we're more equal than what you may think. We constantly negotiate our needs to be unique within our society and within the relationships that we hold. Kind of like yin and yang. I hope I'm not being culturally inappropriate right now, but we'll fact check that. So, when it comes to the discussion of diversity and inclusion and cultural differences, we need to rethink the way we're talking about cultural diversity and cultural differences based on geography. Sure, Hofstede's research helps us understand it on a baseline, but it is vital to bring into that conversation intersectional and intercultural approaches to understand each other better and come together across lines of differences. Sure, Hofstede's research can help us understand these cultural differences at a baseline level, but it's vital to bring into these conversations intersectional and intercultural approaches to understand each other better and come together to balance our individual and collective needs to achieve common goals where we can unify across differences.